Welcome back, 8th grade. We're in week 9 and we're talking about atoms. Today, our learning target is that we will be able to understand ions, how they are named, their properties, and how they are formed. The incredible green lights in this cold northern sky consists of charged particles known as ions. Their swirling pattern is caused by the pull of Earth's magnetic field. Called the northern lights, this phenomena of nature shows that ions respond to a magnetic field. Do you know what ions are? Have you ever heard the word ion before? The northern lights aren't caused by atoms because atoms are not charged particles. An atom always has the same number of electrons as protons. Electrons have an electrical charge of -1, and protons have an electrical charge of +1. Therefore, the charges of an atom's electrons and protons cancel out. This explains why atoms are neutral in electrical charge. Question: what would happen to an atom's charge if it were to gain extra electrons? If it were to gain extra electrons, would it become more positive or more negative? Think about it for just a moment. And we're back. If an atom were to gain extra electrons, it would have more electrons than protons. This would give it a negative charge, so it would no longer be neutral. Atoms can not only gain extra electrons, they can also lose electrons. In either case, they become ions. Ions are atoms that have a positive or negative charge because they have an unequal number of protons and electrons. If atoms lose electrons, they become positive ions or cations. If atoms gain electrons, they become negative ions or anions. Consider the example of fluorine. A fluorine atom has 9 protons and 9 electrons, so it is electrically neutral. If a fluorine atom gains an electron, it becomes a fluoride ion with an electrical charge of -1. So if a fluorine atom gains an electron, it becomes a fluoride ion with an electrical charge of -1. Like fluoride, other negative ions usually have names ending in IDE. Positive ions, on the other hand, are just given the element name followed by the word ion. For example, when a sodium ion loses an electron, it becomes a positive sodium ion. The charge of an ion is indicated by a plus or a minus sign, which is written to the right of and just above the ion's chemical symbol. For example, the fluoride ion is represented by the symbol F and a negative sign up in the top right-hand corner of the F. And the sodium ion is represented by the symbol Na with a plus sign in the top right-hand corner. If the charge is greater than 1, a number is used to indicate it. For example, iron, Fe, may lose 2 electrons to form an ion with a charge of +2. This ion would be represented by the symbol Fe, the number 2, and a plus sign in the top right-hand corner. This and some other common ions are listed with their symbols on this table. Here's a question for you. How does iron 3 ion differ from the iron 2 ion? It's a little tricky to say, isn't it? So how do they differ? How does the iron 3 ion differ from the iron 2 ion? Take a second and think about that. Why are there two different types of iron? And how are they different? Okay, you think you know it? Here's the answer. The iron 3 ion has a charge of +3, so it has one less electron than the iron 2 ion, which has a charge of +2. Good job. Another question. What is the charge of an oxide ion? How does its number of electrons compare to its number of protons? So find oxide. The oxide ion happens to be an anion. How does its number of electrons compare to its number of protons? An oxide ion has a charge of -2. It has 2 more electrons than protons. The process in which an atom becomes an ion is called ionization. It may occur when atoms are exposed to high levels of radiation. The radiation may give their outer electrons enough energy to escape from the attraction of the positive nucleus. However, most ions form when atoms transfer electrons to or from other electrons or molecules. For example, sodium atoms may transfer electrons to chlorine atoms. This forms positive sodium ions and negative chloride ions. Why do you think atoms lose electrons to other atoms or gain electrons from other atoms? This question is going to take a little bit more thought. Go ahead and pause the video if you need to come up with your answer. And we're back. So why do you think atoms lose electrons or gain electrons? Well, like I said, the answer is a little longer than most. Atoms form ions by losing or gaining electrons because it makes them more stable, and this state takes less energy to maintain. The most stable state for an atom is to have its outermost energy level filled with the maximum possible number of electrons. In the case of metals such as lithium, there is just one electron in the outermost energy level. A more stable state can be achieved by losing that one outer electron, and it requires less energy than trying to capture 7 additional electrons. In the case of nonmetals such as fluorine, which has 7 electrons in its outermost energy level, a more stable state can be achieved by gaining 1 electron and filling up the outer energy level. This, again, is easier than losing 7 electrons. It takes less energy. I hate to say it, but atoms are lazy. They don't want to do anything that requires any additional energy. Ions are highly reactive, especially as gases. They usually react with ions of opposite charge to form neutral compounds, kind of like magnets coming together. For example, positive sodium ions and negative chlorine ions react to form the neutral compound sodium chloride, commonly known as table salt. This occurs because oppositely charged ions attract each other. Ions with the same charge, on the other hand, repel each other. Electrons are also deflected by a magnetic field, as you saw in the opening image of the Northern Lights. Finally, to summarize, atoms have equal numbers of positive protons and negative electrons, so they are neutral in electrical charge. Atoms can gain or lose electrons. And when they do, they become ions, which are atoms that have a positive or negative charge because they have unequal numbers of protons and electrons. The process in which an atom becomes an electron is called ionization. It may occur when atoms are exposed to high levels of radiation or when atoms transfer electrons to or from other atoms. Ions are reactive and attracted or repulsed by other charged particles and deflected by a magnetic field. If you need to pause and write any of these down, you're welcome to. If you feel that you now understand well the concept of ions, how they are named, their properties, and how they're formed, then you can move on. Otherwise, feel free to go back and review this video. Have a great day.